Good afternoon, dear journalists. First of all, we had a very important Munich conference. There were many meetings. In short, you have been there, many of you have been, you know the result. I think that an important impetus was given by Ukraine to Europe. And there are several meetings at the level of European leaders. There were meetings in France. There will be more meetings in France. I think there will be meetings in the UK. All this will happen in the coming days of the week. These are important meetings where it will be discussed how Europe is ready to help Ukraine in the event of, for example, a decrease in aid from the United States, or something else. But still, we must count on the allied position of Europe, the EU as a whole, Europe and the United States around Ukraine in this unjust war. Of course, this is all very difficult and we are working on it. We will also organize a meeting here. Some will be offline, some will be online. It will be on the 24th. I think we're going to try to work on that pretty quickly now. It will also be a meeting of leaders. And I don't know online, I won't say yet who will be online. I think there will be serious representation. Then, after Munich and some agreements on defense packages and increased assistance from some states, there were meetings in the United Arab Emirates. We have good agreements there. The business of the Emirates will come to Ukraine. Now such a large meeting will be organized. I think the Emirates will seriously invest in Ukraine. And Ukraine sees cooperation. They see our technologies and agriculture. We see their artificial intelligence and educational programs, and that's why we're going to work here. They have serious packages with some European countries, serious investments. I think Ukraine is next. Now, as for further Turkey, if quickly, the main thing is whether Turkey is ready to give a security guarantee for Ukraine. We will work on it. I see a positive in this. This is important for us, because it is probably not after Ukraine, and it may be incorrect to say it, Ukraine and Turkey are the strongest armies in Europe. This is a fact today. Therefore, it is important for us to keep our connections. In addition, there were humanitarian programs, there are positive decisions, both in the Emirates and in Turkey, regarding the programs of the First Lady. And I think her team can talk about this in detail. And today we in Kyiv are ready to work. We are already working on questions.
Volodymyr Alexandrovich, what happened yesterday in Saudi Arabia and the statements of President Donald Trump, which followed that it was not worth starting this, that you do not know where the American aid is going, and in fact you have a rating of 4% and therefore it is necessary to hold elections urgently. Do you regard what happened yesterday as a betrayal of Ukraine by Ukraine's greatest friend?
Thank you for asking. There are many thoughts and understandings of what is happening here. First of all, I, in principle, never comment on ratings. Because I believe that commenting on ratings regarding yourself or other leaders, it probably says that there are some political competitions and elections are underway. We don't have that. This morning, a survey from Kyiv was released. In principle, I know, I am oriented, but I do not comment on it officially. But since such a time has come, it means that we will take the initiative into our own hands. I will say this. First of all, today I have 57% confidence in Kyiv. I have heard 57+% of various opinion polls. So if someone wants to change me right now, then it won't work right now. I would say so. Second story. Since we are talking about 4%, we have seen this misinformation. We understand that it comes from Russia. We understand that. And we have proof that these figures are being discussed between America and Russia. That is, unfortunately, President Trump treats him with great respect as the leader of a people that we respect very much, the American people, who constantly support us. Unfortunately, he lives in this disinformation space. And the question even, not what kind of support I have for the issue, is that the ratings that we pay attention to are important. The number one question today is how to protect yourself from shelling. I think that this is the number one question, I don't think, but I know from all opinion polls, this is the number one question for Ukrainians. And with leaders, when you talk to European leaders, this is also the number one issue. This question is not raised. Further, the question is very important regarding the return of prisoners. And in Saudi Arabia, the foreign ministers of the two states meet in the presence, the foreign minister of a third state. And they do not raise the issue of prisoners. And they definitely do not raise the issue of shelling and missile strikes. I do not hear an answer to my questions about the increase in Patriot systems. I have not heard from the United States of America, although I keep raising it. These are the questions that are very relevant, which have the highest ratings in any opinion polls. There are many other things, I don't want to stop there. But now we'll talk. I'll have a team. And I will ask for all the opportunities in the opinion poll from the platforms. In the next week or two, it is important for me and we will make it public information. Show confidence in the President of Ukraine, in the President of the United States of America, Trump, in Tusk, in Britain, in Erdogan. I think our closest partners. I think it's very important to watch. And I will definitely make these numbers public. In order to influence the circle around President Trump, disinformation, we must influence. Because I don't know where they meet, in Mar-a-Lago or in Washington, D.C. But permanent people, of course, are around him, and representatives, I know, of Hungary, and lobbyists of the Slovaks. And I don't mean ordinary people. We are talking about politicians. And it's all about doing it all to make Ukraine weak. And it is important for us to convey the truth. This is about numbers. The fact that they discuss their bilateral issues in Saudi Arabia, I said, is their right. Although, I believe that the United States of America helped Putin get out of many years of isolation, which was absolutely fair due to the full-scale invasion. No one is annoyed. Look, we are ready for anything. And the story is that 90% of all aid is from the United States. We understand that, however, it is a little different, although we are certainly grateful for the help. And that's why I would like to see more truth in Trump's team. Because all this affects Ukraine exactly. And it definitely does not have a positive effect on Ukraine. And it affects the fact that they bring Putin out of isolation. And I think Putin and the Russians are very happy, because issues are discussed with them. And yesterday there were already signals, as with a victim, this is something new. I don't want to criticize United States officials, but I think the Global South has always said that this is a conflict. And we had no complaints, because we have always fought to keep the Global South in the middle. And they were all in the middle because they understood that this was just Putin's war against us. Everyone recognizes this, and even in public, when they are loyal to the Russians, her meetings. Anyway, they say a violation of territorial integrity and conflict. And they don't say war, but we did everything to make everyone recognize that this is a war. And this is war. And why am I talking about official representatives now? If Secretary of State Rubio says that this is a conflict officially, what I have been shown needs to be verified, but this is a softening of this policy. And let me be very frank with you. This is not my first dialogue or battle, and I take it calmly. If we remember my phone battles with the previous administration, it was during a meeting of the Secretary of Treasury. At that time, I was just fighting for the official paper, where the conflict was written. And I fought and did everything so that they write that this is a war. That is, such shifting of politics to soften what Putin has done to us. This is not the first day. And we defend the rights of Ukraine because we know that we are right. There's nothing wrong with that, but unfortunately we have to admit what things are happening. And therefore, today's Minister of Finance, who came with the document, he received the appropriate result.
You don't know where American aid is going.
I don't know?
Trump said it.
I think we need to deal with this help. We have completely different numbers. Absolutely, unfortunately, everything is very clear to us. The war cost us $320 billion. $120 billion is us, the people of Ukraine, taxpayers. $200 billion is the United States of America and the European Union. And that's what, let's say, we are talking about weapons. This is a weapons package of $320 billion. Total United States. Separately, the United States of America gave us 67 weapons, and 31.5 is direct financial assistance to the budget. There were some separate programs, of course, grateful for all these humanitarian programs. But this cannot be counted $500 billion. All this cost $500 billion, and give us back $500 billion in minerals or something. This is not a serious conversation. Although I say once again that we are ready for a serious document. We need security guarantees. You need it. With pleasure. Invest. Share. Depending on the investment and the object of investment. Take away the interest. There is no question, you earn, but we need security guarantees.
Olena Karenkova, Suspiln. Ukraine hasn't signed the rare earth metals agreement due to the absence of clearly defined security guarantees. Actually, we see the position of the United States. It is quite ambiguous, and they hint that this is the return of their assistance that Ukraine has received over the years. How does Ukraine articulate this? How does it react, and what clear security guarantees would you like to see in this document?
Thank you for your question. The document was not clear. It was clear about only one thing. We must give 50% of what is listed in the document. By the way, we are not afraid of this, and I am ready for the publicity of this document. I don't think it will help our relationship. I have respect for the United States, and that's why I told the Secretary of the Treasury that this document is not ready. Beyond my capabilities, beyond my powers, beyond the Constitution of Ukraine and all legislation, everything that is written there, what jurisdiction is in New York, etc., that is, there is a lot of stuff there. I can't just talk about it like that. And that's why I said, there's no word about security guarantees. And already at the second meeting with Vance, we agreed that there might be something about it, but no one knows anything. And then I said absolutely frankly, listen, we all want victory between us. And so that we succeed, and that Trump succeeds, and that the people of Ukraine, so that we all succeed, you know? And if there's nothing clear there, I said, let's write the percentages. That was my suggestion. I defend Ukraine. I cannot sell our state. That's it. I said, okay, let's have some positive. You will write some guarantees, and we will write a memorandum of some interest. I was told only 50. I said, okay, no. And even if the lawyers continue to work, then it means that they have not finalized something. I'm just a decision maker. I am not working on the details of this document. Let them work.
Will there be any guarantees?
Look, they know my guarantees. And if we want to talk about it, and I talked about it, for example, everyone understands it. Even those countries that are not in NATO understand this, and in the Middle East, everyone understands. We, Ukraine, are in such a situation. When we do not have many formats of security guarantors for us. And no one will just build something so new, global, something cosmic. Because we want security guarantors this year, because we want to end the war this year. And when we do not make a new one, do not create a new world, then security guarantees, they are all on the table. I offered them NATO, and I understand that every time I say NATO, they don't like even what we say about it. You'll understand where we are. But we say what we think. I believe that this is our advantage and this is our strength. We don't play no stories. There is nothing like that with the backstage. We have a frank conversation, guarantees for this. That's why we say, Russians listen to us. No, they listen, this is not their story. In general, I want to tell you that security guarantees cannot be said like this, that you need to give something to the Russians, go to meet them. Yes, but we do not want security guarantees from the Russians. All my question. We are still up to the conditions regarding the Russians, we have not yet reached there. When we talk about some kind of agreement, then we will talk about what the Russians owe because of this war. And now we are talking about quick solutions, security guarantors. They depend solely on our NATO partners. We said either. Our army is 1 million people. Financing of this army. Weapons for this army. Air defense, total air defense, protection, which is not available to Russians, not to Europeans, but exclusively to Americans, to President Trump. Air defense protection is exclusively against them. And that's what's important. And the contingent from those countries that want, that are able, for some time, I don't know, for some period, to stand in our cities, on our borders, on contact lines, etc. All this is clear to us. We have a map where we can see it. But we are ready for a dialogue, for a discussion of how much everything has been calculated. These, in principle, are the main things. What is it that we ask that we need to look for some kind of compromise with the Russians? We don't need a Russian contingent. We don't need air defense from the Russians. We ask for protection from them, and therefore we turn only to our partners. And they must write at least something, somewhere. To be honest, it seems to me that we should at least meet. Yes, it seems to me.
What specific reasons and, possibly, evidence became the basis for the imposition of sanctions against Petro Poroshenko, especially in such a difficult time, when we need political unity, among other things? You mentioned financial monitoring data about Poroshenko's alleged money laundering via his fund. Please tell us more about it.
Let law enforcement agencies tell. The National Security and Defense Council received detailed financial monitoring reports. An investigation is ongoing, and Petro Poroshenko faces no sanctions. Do not subject a person who withdraws funds from our state. There is a list of people who did this.
I have a question, Mr. President. Now all these conversations, what we were all afraid of is coming true. They talk about Ukraine without Ukraine and try to deprive us of subjectivity. I wanted to ask you, why is this the wrong tactic? Could you list in your opinion what is the strength of Ukraine as a subject? Let's talk a little about the good.
Thanks. First, our strength is that without us, this deal. As the Americans say, there is an impossible. And the second story, everyone understands that we are quite stable today. We are much stronger than we were at the beginning of the invasion. As scary as the stories are about how we can't hold on, and the Russians are occupying everything, and so on, and that they have a very strong army. All these narratives are clear to us, we calmly relate to it. We have questions, there are many questions, but the army is quite resilient. And at least it is more persistent in Europe today. And the strongest. And this guarantees us the opportunity to speak with dignity. And on a par with other partners. With allies or non-allies. It doesn't matter anymore. Further, our domestic production is growing very strongly. We produce 30% of the entire package of what we need today. This is not enough, but it is very much, and this is more than each of the European countries is doing separately today. And we will still be living here. Despite when there is a diplomatic movement to end this war. When it starts, we will still live with that neighbor. We understand anyway, as long as we are not in NATO. We will rely on ourselves and partners, but on ourselves is the key. And therefore, we will still increase our production of technological, drones, electronic warfare, artillery, first of all.
Mr. President, good afternoon. Do you understand the clear position of the U.S. administration on a peaceful settlement in Ukraine? And did the American administration understand Ukraine's clear position on this issue? And in this regard, what would you like to clarify today? Have you already clarified with the special envoy, Mr. Keith Kellogg? In what positions do they coincide, and in what, if they differ, then in what about a peaceful settlement? Thanks.
We started with ratings with you, and let's finish by trying to say about it as well. It seems to me that we should first of all look at what the people who are fighting this enemy think about it. To make all concessions to Russia, this is supported by 1% of the population. This is the answer to everything. You can't do that, they are to blame. You can't wash them out like money, wash out Russians. You can't wash out simply, as dirty money washes, wash dirty people. It's impossible, because no one will believe you. It seems so that it can be solved simply by some agreements, documents, etc. This is impossible. In Ukraine, no one believes Putin. Clear security guarantees. That's all Kellogg gets today. And ratings and everything else. And it is very important for me that he himself walks around Kyiv, in other cities. He also said that 20 to 30% of the capital is missing, everything is destroyed. I want him to take a look. And further, so that he communicates with people, whether they trust their president, whether they trust Putin. Let them ask about Trump what they think after their president's statements. I think this is important. To go, just talk to people. We don't want to take him anywhere. Let him choose. There is an ambassador here, let them go. It seems to me that it is very important what is happening. And then, as I said, I am ready to go to the front with him, I will go with him. Let's go and let them talk to the military there. Is the military ready? Now it is urgent to vote in order to go home, in order to give everything to the Russians, and have no guarantee of safety. Let them ask it, ask the people who live and fight here. It seems to me that ordinary people have the answer to all this. For me, this task is for Mr. Kellogg to get the information himself, on his own, to understand what is happening. And if there is an opportunity, and if he has time, and yet all this is based on the desire of always a person. If he has a desire, he will get it. And separately, of course, there will be meetings of the military with him, there will be intelligence, and the security service. All the requests that the other side has, all the requests that our side received. We are open to this.
Mr. President, we have heard about the idea of security guarantees over and over again from the United States. They don't want to send troops, they don't want Ukraine to become a member of NATO. What will these security guarantees potentially look like given the restrictions? What will work?
I think that NATO will work, but they will not let you in. Yes. But look, when they said that there were no troops on the territory of Ukraine. But they have ships, they have air defense. Indeed, the United States really has these powerful air defenses. Can we get 20 air defense systems? That's enough. Even we do not need their maintenance with these systems. We have our people, we will prepare them. So for us, we are not even talking about troops directly in Ukraine, but you can get licenses. Not even missiles, but licenses for the production of missiles for Patriot air defense systems. I know that we count every day. I apologize when it's 3, 4, 5 in the morning when the commander calls me and says, "We are near this city." I don't want to say what kind of city it is now. But we do not have missiles for Patriot systems under this city. That's it, we've exhausted it, I understand that. I say, what's going on? He says that now there are 8 missiles on the approach, but we do not have missiles for warning systems. Is this correct? I think this is wrong. These are, in fact, the things that make everyone nervous. And that's why when we talk about something so big, I said to the representatives of the United States that you can really provide in terms of security guarantees. You don't want to send troops, you don't want us in NATO. Can we get enough Patriot systems? But first we want to, and then tomorrow and so on. Look, it's such a long conversation, too long. And if President Trump really counts on it, I said it from the very beginning. Even during the election campaign, I said that we are counting on your policy. Unlock the package, help us. Listen to what is happening in Ukraine. Just listen to different voices. I'm not saying that you should only listen to us. But there are certain alternative opinions. I think this is really very important. And this is what we discussed in Turkey with President Erdogan. And then there were questions about the United States, whether they were ready to provide you with troops, some assistance. Many decisions depend on this. That is why we communicate them with our strategic partners. If it is more than just words, these names, strategic partners, these words should work. About funding. Again, I started talking to European leaders. I think they will be ready to talk about financing our armed forces. If the United States does not fund these armed forces, is Europe ready? I think so, in my opinion. But it will be their decision. Of course, we will work on different alternatives, different possibilities. This is the first thing. Secondly, can we buy guns in the United States? I think it's, a little bit strange that we can't buy when the Middle East, for example, Middle Eastern countries, can buy. Is it strange? I think it's strange. We are partners, we are now at war. And we have to raise this issue, while there are billions. Which agreements are contracted with the countries of the Middle East and others in these agreements? That is, there are many questions. I have only outlined